in a continuous learning mode too, without it being stressful. It's not like there's a lot of pressure on you to get something done immediately, but it's like, so you're in this continuous learning mode, but you have some time to learn it and really think about it, articulate it, and then get that message out. Well, that's right. And one of the things I always tell them about just even participation is that a lot of times if you don't articulate the question, the question's agitating in your mind, you don't really understand it well enough to put it into words. So that's one of the things I really encourage is that they ask questions, participate, because it's going to make it so that they'll remember it better. I think we're official. We'll probably have more people drifting in as we get past 8 o'clock. So good morning. I want to introduce to you our auto sales specialist, auto broker, Jeff Long. We have contact information up here on the board. Jeff is the owner of LongshotAutosales.com. It's an online auto broker. And boy, if you type in auto broker on Google, in the Google box, boom, Longshot Auto Sales, first one to come up. Terrific reviews. Jeff is a graduate of San Jose State, so he's a Spartan, not a Bronco, but we like our neighbors. And come on in, guys. And he's going to go ahead and give himself a little bit further introduction, and he's going to get right into the conversation we want to have about car buying, vocabulary, whether you should maybe think about leasing a car as opposed to buying it, under what circumstances. So without further ado, Jeff Long.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks everyone for having me, and I look forward to going over all the insides of the auto business. I've been one of the owners of Longshot Auto Sales, auto broker company here in San Jose for over 6 years. Before that, I was at Toyota Santa Cruz selling Toyotas as an internet sales manager for over 5 years, and graduated at San Jose State in 2007. So that'll be it about me. And I do have my cell number right here. So after I go over all this, being an auto broker, I can sell any new and used vehicle. And I also can buy vehicles, give you guys free advice, help you out. We are a free service to the clients, to you guys. So anytime you ever want to buy a car, have a friend or family, and you don't have someone in the inside business like myself, the insider, call or text me. I will help you guys out, okay? So I also have a stack of business cards here, so you guys can take those.
I'll get those distributed.
Okay.
I just want to add one thing, because it is an overwhelming experience to try to go into an auto dealership on your own for the first time and get bombarded by terminology and time taking and negotiating.
Oh, yeah.
And using an auto broker does take a lot of that hassle out. Personally, we used one for my husband's 50th birthday several years ago. Got the best possible deal on one of the hottest new cars on the market, and it really sold me on the idea of using an auto broker as opposed to just going in, cold turkey to an auto dealership. So lots of information. I'm going to be Vanna White here, and as Jeff throws out a term, I'm going to put it on the board, and I want you to take down some of this terminology so you're familiar with it, and on we go.
Alrighty,
All right.
So quick show of hands. Raise your hand if you guys have been to a dealership and bought a car before. Alright, so we have a couple here. Okay. Alrighty, so just wanted to see my audience. Okay. So what we're going to first go over is the keywords. What dealers know and what you guys should know when you're going to buy a vehicle. Okay. After the keywords, we are going to talk about a purchase example. Purchasing a used vehicle, whether you have good credit or bad credit. And credit nowadays is huge, okay? Especially in buying these used vehicles, so I'll go over that. After that, leasing, okay? Leasing, it took me over 2 years to learn the in and outs of leasing as a dealer. So I can only imagine a consumer when they walk into a dealership or try to do any type of research on leasing. So we're gonna go over a lease example and whether you should lease or buy. After that, if we have time, we're going to talk about gap insurance and some other stuff, take questions, And as I start to go over stuff, if you have a question, raise your hand. Let me see if we can address it as soon as possible, because that'll help me better teach you guys on what to do when buying a car and all the good stuff, okay? So terms, okay? So MSRP. Who knows what MSRP is? Anyone knows MSRP? All right, cool. So it's a good term to learn then. Manufactured suggested retail price. Every single new vehicle that's offered for sale has an MSRP. That is where you start negotiating from. Some dealers will add a premium to that. If it's a hard to find vehicle, and there's very few of them out there, not a Toyota Camry, but maybe a very hard to find Toyota Tacoma Pro Rare Edition. They'll mark it up $2,000, $3,000 above MSRP. So when you walk and you say, oh, there's MSRP, but it's plus $5,000, holy cow. So MSRP is where you start negotiating on every single new car. Will have one on the window. Invoice. All right, so invoice is what they own the vehicle for. A little insider information for you guys. So if you're going to look at a new vehicle, invoice is what they own it for. Some dealers might say, hey, look, we'll sell for $500 back of invoice.
Now, is it what the dealer paid for the car? Or is there a difference between what they paid for the car and what they own it for?
Well, I wouldn't say they own it because they probably get the free flooring, but it's what they're in the car for. So that's their cost, that's what they're in the car for.
Okay,
is
what
the
dealer
invoice.
cost is.
Correct, yes.
Okay,
So if you guys go into a dealership, you want to be as close to invoice or back of that as possible. If it's a rare vehicle and maybe there's one on the lot of that dealership, it's going to be somewhere in the middle. And at the more rare, supply and demand, it's going to be higher, closer to MSRP. So if you guys go get a Prius, a Camry through us or anybody, make sure it's back of invoice. So what we do for our clients is we'll get a vehicle for $1,000, sometimes more, back of their cost. Why? Because the dealership just wants to sell a car, get a good survey, and add it to one of their units, okay? So those are two very important terms. And let's see what else we have. APR. Oh, yes, question.
Can you ask what the invoice is?
Yes, you can always ask, you can look it up. If you look up online, and of course you guys can always call me, if you look up online, the invoice is always going to be different. Why? One car might have carpet and floor mats, one might have all-weather mats, one might have an extra accessory. Sometimes the invoice might not have the dealer processing fee on there, so destination fee. Okay, so that's $700, $800, and all
wait,
those.
what is that one now?
So if you look up online, the true invoice, it's very difficult to find. You usually ask the dealer, or it's going to be on a per car basis. When you look up online, they might not have any of the accessories added on the vehicle. They might not have the dealer destination fee on there. They might not have a couple different things on there. So invoice, after you find the vehicle you like, and you know the MSRP, then ask for the invoice. Trying to find it online on just a general vehicle will be very difficult. Any other questions? Okay. Oh, yes.
Which time of the year is it better to?
Monday through Thursday. Because Friday through Sunday, the dealers are busy selling cars. Holidays and, that's a very good question. Holidays and when they say, we have a big sale, come down, that's when you don't go down. Because that's when they just want to sell cars. Oh, you want to wheel and deal? Go sit down. We'll be right back. I gotta go to deliver a car. Because they're busy. So my advice, Monday through Thursday, when they're slow, in the morning. That's the best time. Now you have 5 salesmen waiting and seeing you go back and forth from a car to the desk, and you're going to get the best deal then. So when we try to get our clients to go down, we say, look, Monday through Thursday, or the weekend early before it gets busy. So that's actually a really good question. But you definitely don't want to go when they say they're having a sale, because that's when they're going to be pretty much spending the most.
Not having a sale.
Just as a quick story add-on, so when I first had my first child, Michael, and I was nursing him, my husband wanted to get a new car. And he wanted to have this Toyota model that was just hot off the market. And we were down there negotiating for 3 hours. Here I am with a baby in arm. The baby starts crying, so it's time to go feed him. And right as I go feed him, my husband settles the deal for full MSRP plus a $4,000 dealer markup, and he's already signed the paperwork. Ready to kill him? Yes, I was.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so it's something to be aware of. Look at that sticker and be aware now of these terms. Yeah.
So now that you said that, I'll throw this one in here. So back-end products. If you might want to write that down, back-end or back-end products. So when you
Back-end.
buy a vehicle, let's say like her husband, he signed it, I want it. Okay, you think it's done, right? No. Now you have to wait for the dealership to prepare all the paperwork, get the driver's license, insurance, get it all ready, and then wait for finance. Finance is a whole different person, whole different little office where you sit down and you sign all the DMV paperwork. It's their job to offer you back-end products. So now that you already bought the vehicle, okay, a super expensive vehicle, now you go in there, you're all happy, excited, and nervous, and they say, well, Mr. Customer, you need a warranty. You need prepaid maintenance, because your car is going to need oil changes. Why not buy it now and just put it in your payment? And a warranty, oh, you need this, $2,000, $3,000. They also sell protective coating you can put on your car that'll protect it versus any sap or bird poop for 5 years. And if they can't clean that sap or bird poop off, they'll repaint the top. Same with the inside. If you spill Kool-Aid inside and you can't clean it with the protective coating they put on the inside, they'll replace it. So they offer you all these different things. Yes, they have value, but yes, they're marked up a lot. So that's the whole other side of buying a car, is when you go into the back to see finance. And also, if you go on a weekend, there will be 3 or 4 people ahead of you to see finance. Which then, after you spent hours negotiating, and now you're hungry, and you finally got the deal done, you have to wait, sometimes a half hour, sometimes 3 hours, to go into finance. And then that could take an hour. So being prepared, you could take all day at the dealership. And these back-end products, yes, they have value, but always negotiate, okay? They tend to mark them up almost 50%, okay?
I have the Camino page up because you can see how many different YouTubes I pulled to get, some exposure for you about buying a car. And I believe that it's the one that is 13 car buying mistakes that maybe shows what Jeff just went through about how in a dealership you go through like 6 different processes before you get out of there with the car. And if you don't understand something about the financing, or if you don't understand about these back-end products, you can get drawn into paying a lot of money that you shouldn't have to necessarily pay.
Yes, and so let's say you do buy all these. Let's say you bought a car yesterday and you're like, oh my gosh, I should have waited for this guy to go over all these things. Dealers, you can cancel warranties, prepaid maintenance. You can't do the protective coating because they put that on your car. But if you buy these things and after a while, you don't want that warranty, they'll refund you and write a check and send it out to you. Okay, so you can get some of that money back.
Good to know.
If you do that. They would fight for it, but they'll definitely give you a check back, no problem, okay? So, let's see here. Option contract. Might as well throw this in there. 5-day option contract. So, this might make a little bit more sense when we go over the purchase example, but this is very important. A lot of people don't know about this. If you buy a vehicle and you are set at a rate, an APR, okay, then you have 5 days to go search and get a better rate after you bought the vehicle. So after you buy the vehicle and you sign, you go through finance, you're home, you're sitting there, and you're like, oh my gosh, I should have bought the warranty. Well, then you can get the warranty back. And then you say, oh my gosh, I signed at a 25%. I know I can get a better rate than that. You go to your local credit union and say, look, I just bought this car. What will you guys do for me? They already approved me. I'm already approved, but can you beat the rate? They say, oh, we'll give you 20% or 22%. Now your payment goes down. That credit union or bank will write a check to the dealer. The dealer will say, oh, well, the check you gave me or the bank that we got approved for and maybe marked up the rate, because dealers can mark up the rate 2 to 2.5%. So you get your own rate. We missed out on making some money on the rate, but now you save money and get a lower payment. And so you have 5 business days to do that after you buy a car.
Jeff, can you address the, like Toyota right now is offering, and several car manufacturers, the dealerships are giving you 0% financing for 60 months. So I mean, you really can't beat 0%, right?
Of course. Actually, that's something I was going to go ahead after we do the purchase example, because some people go, should I buy new or used, right? You know, new, oh, that's a little bit higher. That's $3,000, $4,000 higher, $5,000 higher than that used car. But as soon as we discount that car a couple $1,000s, and then from the new car, now you're getting closer to that used car price. And then when you add the APR, which is the interest rate for that used vehicle, compared to a 0%. So now let's say you're spending $1,500 to $2,000 on a rate, and you can save that money and get 0. That's a free loan from the bank. You can't beat that. That is literally, if you're going to buy a car and you see 0%, get a great deal on it, and that's when you're going to get a free loan. If you have a rate on your credit card, student loans, other than 0%, if you even have that money to go purchase it outright, do not go purchase a depreciating asset with all your money. Go invest it. Go get a low rate or go get 0%. You can't beat that. So
And that's usually only gonna be offered on a new vehicle.
yeah, so what will happen is Toyota, for instance, when I used to work there, and we do all makes and models, but I'm going to use Toyota as an example. So for like a Camry, they'll say, oh, look, Mr. Customer, we'll either give you $1,000 to buy this car if you pay in full. We'll either give you a 0% for 60 months, so for 5 years, you can make payments on this. Don't give the bank any money. Yes?
So you can pay in full. Do a lot of people pay in full?
If you have a lot of money and you just want to get rid of it, pay in
Do
full.
you recommend paying in full?
No. Yes. So if you have a lot of money and you just want to get rid of it, or a family member says, I want to buy you a car, or you want to use it as a write-off for a company, go pay in full. But why buy a depreciating asset with your money? You want to put as little money as down, a little amount as possible down, and get the lowest rate as possible. Low rate and the lowest depreciation, best value, because they're all going to depreciate. And so if you get a 0%, and let's say you went through me and you got a 0% on a new Camry, we sold it $1,000 back of invoice, and Toyota right now gives you 2 years of free maintenance. So when you compare a new vehicle like that versus a used vehicle, now once you get the huge discount back of invoice, the 2 years of free maintenance, a couple $1,000 of value right there, and then you have the car under warranty. It's 0 miles. It's newer than the used car. And then if you have a 0 rate, now that person that walks into the dealership going, I don't know what I want, a normal car salesman is going to say, you want this used car, you're saving money. Look at the price on that new car, it's so high. And that's where they make their money. They make the money on the used car, right? There's a profit in there. They make money on the rate. And then they say, oh, well, you need a warranty because you're buying a used car. So that person walks out, and I've seen it a lot, where they walk out spending more on a used car than they do a new car. They have a rate, they have a warranty, they have all these things. I'm like, holy cow, you add up everything, they are spending thousands more on that used car than they would a new car.
I just wanna, I think most of you understand what the term depreciable asset means? Means it's going down in value. Make sure you reflect that on your balance sheet in your exercise 4, that car that you own is going down in value every year. They'll show you how to do that on Excel. So just a little hint to your net worth. That $20,000 car, that's what you bought it at, every year it's declining in value in terms of what you can sell it for.
Mm-hmm. So let's see if we have some other great terms here. These are a couple lease terms real quick. And then after we do the purchase example, we will do a lease example here for you. So residual. Does anyone know what a residual is? Okay, so when you buy a vehicle, a lease, a purchase is you're buying the whole vehicle, the whole. Okay, if you lease, you're only buying the depreciation of that vehicle, and you can only lease new vehicles over 3 years. Okay, the residual is the guaranteed purchase price after the lease. So let's say you buy the vehicle for invoice, we'll make it easy. After 3 years, you say, well, what's the car worth? That's the residual. The guaranteed purchase price if you choose to buy it. If you don't buy it, they call it the residual, because that's what it's worth after 3 years. And they determine that by how many miles you're gonna drive, whether it's 10,000, 12,000, or 20,000. So before you buy a car, how long am I gonna keep the car? How far am I gonna drive the car? These are things that play into when you purchase the vehicle. And so if you lease it, we'll go into what makes leasing attractive over the purchase right when we're done with that. But I wanted to put these on there so when I do the lease example, when I talk about the residual or the guaranteed purchase price, you'll have an idea what that is. The other thing is the money factor. The money factor is the APR, but it's not called the rate. It's not called the percentage rate. They throw a funny term out there called the money factor to confuse people. So a normal rate would be 1.9. A money factor, which we'll go into, is 0.000 and some numbers. So when they come out to you and say, here's your payment, 0.00, well, what's my rate? 000, oh, okay, and then you buy it. So we'll go over that and we'll show you what a good money factor is. But a money factor is basically a rate for a lease. So if you go into a lease and you think everything's good, oh, wait, what's the money factor? And that's the APR. And we'll show you also how to convert the money factor into a rate, which is really cool. Any questions on the keywords before we go to a purchase example? Yes?
Is the lease a fixed price for the each payment?
Is lease a fixed price for each payment? What do you mean?
Like, so let's say you get a lease on a car for 3 years, you pay the same price for all 3 years.
Correct, yes. So what they'll do is they'll say, okay, well, from, let's say, the invoice down to the residual is going to be $8,000 over 3 years. You're going to pay interest and tax just on that $8,000. So if you plan on getting out of that vehicle in 3 years, leasing might be more attractive because you're not paying the full tax on the full purchase of the vehicle. If you purchase it, you own the whole thing, full tax, full interest. You're committed. If you lease it, you're just paying that interest and tax on that $8,000. So, but you're driving the same vehicle. So then after the lease, if you want to get out of that vehicle, you just saved the money on the taxes of the whole balance, if that makes sense.
Because you're gonna turn it back over to the person that
Yeah.
leased it to you.
And so you take that $8,000, you add a little bit of tax, a little bit of rate, you divide that by the 36 months, there's your payment. And then it'll stay the same until you're done with your lease.
I think it's maybe before we launch into the example, where we're gonna be throwing numbers up here, and Jeff's gonna be doing that on the whiteboard, so make sure you can see well. It may make sense to talk about when is a good opportunity to think about leasing instead of purchasing. What are the characteristics of a good time to lease a car versus buying a car?
You want me to go over that now or after the purchase and the lease? Because I'll get an idea.
Okay, why don't you do the example then first?
Okay.
And then if it's gonna work out better for you that way, perfect.
I think it'd be better because then I can maybe explain from this.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about a used car. 2017 Camry Hybrid, has all the bells and whistles, nice car. So if someone says, hey look, you know, I've graduated college, everyone else is driving these nice, beautiful hybrids, I need to get something nice. I don't have any money, but I want to get this, okay? So we are going to sell this car together. 25, and you're going to see an example of good credit versus bad credit. So first we're going to talk about the vehicle. $25,000 is the asking price. We're just going to assume that they're buying it for $25,000. Her husband came in and said, I'm buying it for full price, okay? So $25,000 is the selling price of this used vehicle, low miles, beautiful vehicle. We're going to add fees to that. Every time you buy a vehicle, add 10% for tax and license. Okay? The rule of thumb is 10%. Why? Because tax is around 9.5. The rest is going to be fees with DMV. So 10%. That's going to be the fees on there. So what we're going to do is, I'll show you here.
And isn't there like a docking fee also?
Very small, like $80 or
Okay.
less. I mean, that's just to do all the documents that the dealer would charge. Majority of it is the registration, the DMV, and the taxes. Everything else is very, very, very minor. Okay, so. We're gonna say customer A and customer B. Customer A has good credit, 720 or higher. Anybody, if you're looking what's good credit, what's bad credit in the car industry, 720 or better is considered perfect credit. All the 0% leases, anything you ever want, and you will get with the 720 or better. 700 is good, you might get really close to it, but that's your goal. 600 is not horrible, but it's definitely not great. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go off person number A with good credit, okay? So we're all gonna say 0 down, both of them are gonna be the same deal, times 72 months. Why 72 months? Because they want a low payment, and I want to show you guys the interest on how it accumulates if you go over here. So they say, I have no money down, I want the vehicle, and the APR, let me know if you can't read my writing, 1.99%, the rate. So the interest, I'll move it here so you can write this down. So up here, what's fees? 10%. 27,500 is your out the door price, okay? Including tax and license. So your interest, if you make these payments, is gonna be $1,697. Your total, if you make each one of those payments, is gonna be $29,197. Your payment, if you're wondering, Mr. Customer, sign right here at 406 times 72. So before you go to see finance and they offer every warranty and all this stuff, that is what you're looking at for deal number A. Not too bad. Now, 600. Late on a couple credit cards, they go and they say, I want to buy a vehicle. Same scenario as right here. Okay? Same scenario. The APR rate is now 20%. Because of the credit. Now, you guys see why credit's so important? Yes.
Can I ask a quick question? What was the 406?
406 is your monthly payment.
Oh, okay.
This is the months. And the 406 will be including tax and license and your interest. So when the dealer comes out and says, this is all you need, boom. Okay? Now, here, this rate can be marked up by dealers to 2.5% and can go up to 25%.
Wow, that is stunning, though. The difference between a 2% financing and 20% if
Oh,
the
it gets
FICO
better.
score is 600. Wow.
If you make each payment, your total interest is only $19,927. Your total brings it to $47,427, and that's going to be your new total. Why? Because you're adding the out the door price automatically 10%. You're adding the rate, the APR. And now look what you're paying. 29 versus 47. You're almost paying double. Oh, close. But you're paying a lot more. You're paying almost $19,000 more for the same
And
vehicle.
what was the payment on that gonna be?
Good question. I have it right here. So you're looking at 659 times 72 months. So look at the payment. 406 versus 659. What would you rather have? And it's the same car, the same deal, the same taxes. What's important? Okay, so now this is also a simple interest loan. Okay, which means, let's say you really want this car, and you are the 600, but everybody has the nice car at your work, and you're making good money, okay? Because when a bank approves, you're gonna say, what's your credit and what's your income? Your credit's here, but your income's way up here. You don't have a lot of money, but you're gonna start making money. So you say, look, I can pay 29 grand in a year. I can do that. I know I'm making $100,000, but I have no money now. My credit sucks. So what you do, because you don't want to go drive the cheap car on Craigslist for 4 grand, is you go buy this. Now, if you pay it off in 1 year, your total rate, your total interest, instead of 19, which is 1 year, is about $3,300 a year. Okay? If you pay it off in 1 year, that's pretty much the interest you're paying. It's going to be close to someone with good credit if they made each payment for the 72 months. So what you do is, if you get stuck in this, you either come see me, trade it in, get out of it, so you get out of this rate, and then go get something 0% after you've been making payments on this, or you just pay it off soon. Get the title, and then you only paid close to $3,000 instead of close to $20,000 for the interest, okay? You also, remember, 5 days to get a better rate, and the dealers can do a 2.5% markup, which means you might want to go double check at your credit union for that. So this is pretty much the example from good credit, bad credit on a used vehicle. And now, do you see why 0% is so important? Because let's say this new Camry is $30,000, and you say that's 5 grand more. But once we get that discount down to $26,000, once we, save you $1,697 and add the 2 years of free maintenance and 0 miles and under warranty, what's a better value? The new car. So a used, unless they don't have a 0%, and you might want to get a Camry that's a 2012, save some money. Unless you're okay with just going with a low rate and you have that good credit. If you don't have good credit, you want to go cheaper as cheap as possible. Buy a private party or pay it off soon, because if you are stuck with making this payment for 72 months, you're going to be paying a lot of money.
How many of you work with a credit union as your primary financial institution? Most of you work with a bank. So a credit union is owned by its members, and a bank is typically owned by stockholders, okay? And so what that means is that a credit union can be more of an advocate for you, getting you lower interest rates, because you are the owners. Whereas the bank has stockholders, like say Bank of America or Fidelity National, who they have to create profit for. So their entire motivation is to profit from lending you money, not to give you the best possible rate. So credit unions are a good thing for any of you to check into for using as a financial institution. Most of them now have FDIC, which we'll talk about coming up, but it's just insuring your money to make sure that the bank doesn't, if it goes belly up, you'll get your money back up to $250,000. So credit unions are a good thing to look into, for sure.
First 0%, then credit unions, then the dealers. That's the way you want to look at it with the rate, okay? Any questions on this? No? Okay. So
Raise your hand if you're thinking about buying a car in the next 3 or 4 years.
my number and my cards.
Yeah,
There's not gonna be a better way to do it, but
I'll get the cards.
hopefully,
passed.
after going over all this, you guys will be very knowledgeable on it as well. And if you need a job, one of the owners, you can always call them. All right, so no more questions on this, right? Okay, so now we're gonna do the lease. Okay, we're gonna do a lease example for you guys. So to make it easy, now that we talked about MSRP and invoice and everything else, let's see here, I'll start if I need to erase it already. Okay, so we're gonna lease.
Oh, we can do this. This board can come down. Unless you want to keep it up.
Bring it on down, that's fine.
You want, or
No,
did you
just-
want to keep it,
Bring it down, yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
if you need a
It's a
clean
lot
one?
quicker than erasing it.
That's right. There you go.
All right, cool. So this is going to be a new 2018 Corolla LE MSRP, you guys know what that is, right? What their asking price is, $20,524. Invoice. You guys know what that is, right? Their cost on it. What do we have this? That is 19. Okay? So not a lot of markup on this, right? The more expensive vehicle, the more luxury, could be $3,000-$4,000 markup or somewhere right around there. It's around 10% or so. Okay, so for this, we're gonna say you guys are buying it for invoice. We can get them a lot farther back of that, but for this, we're gonna go ahead and do that. Now, what's the residual on this lease? What can you buy it for if you choose to buy it for after the lease? $10,695. So what you're going to be paying for is the depreciation from here down to here. All leases are typically 36 months. Okay? We are going to do 12K miles a year. Okay? How do they determine the residual? The miles. Okay? If you want less miles, and this is where dealers sometimes get people, when you go in, you say, oh, I want this vehicle, and they come back with a low payment, you're like, ooh, that's really low. I want that one. But you drive 20,000 miles a year. And they say, well, we're only going to give you 10K miles a year, and that's your payment. So an average is normally around 12 for someone that doesn't drive too much. Okay? So we're going to go 12K miles a year in 36 months. They always call it a 3-year 36 standard. That's going to be a lease. Okay? So $500 down, and this is real numbers. To give you guys an example, is 220. Okay, with only $500 down on a brand new Corolla, 2 years free maintenance, the dealer's not really making any money, you're only at $225 for 36 months. So you get a lower payment, a lower down payment, but you're driving the same vehicle you would if you purchased it. So why do companies lease? This is why. They save money on taxes here, right? On interest here. But they're driving the same vehicle. So the cost is down, but they're utilizing this new vehicle. That's why companies lease. So how do they do so here's a good one for you. Picking your miles. If you say I want 12,000 miles and you drive this and you give it back and you're under 36,000 miles, and we'll go over the 4 options that what you can do on a lease. You're prepaying the miles because every vehicle you drive depreciates, right? When you drive a vehicle, what happens? You put miles on it. What happens when you put more miles on a car? It goes down in value. The average depreciation, this is a good one, is 25 cents a mile. That's average on all used, new, every car out there. They did a survey, 25 cents a mile. Why is leasing good? Well, you can go 25 cents a mile, Mr. Company, or you can do 10 cents, right? And you know what it's going to be up front because Toyota says 10 cents per mile, that's what's going to be depreciated. If you want higher miles, what's 10 cents times that higher miles? It's going to be a lower residual. So higher payment, this thing, basically the more you pay over the depreciation, then you're either going to be able to buy it cheaper after or more expensive. Same type deal, okay? But if you go over your miles and you're not going to keep the car, they're going to charge you 15 cents a mile. So is leasing good whether you are under or over your miles compared to the average? Yes. Now you see why people lease. Not every company is going to be at 10 cents a mile and at 15 cents a mile. This is going to be for Toyota, if you want a Range Rover, or if you want a Mercedes, they might charge 20 cents, 25 cents. It could be higher because they depreciate more, okay? But this is a great deal because even if you go over your miles, you're still underneath the average. Now, so, I don't know if I saw a hand. Okay, so here's the residual. Another reason leasing is good. You go on your phone, okay, now this is what the vehicle costs, new. You go on your phone and you say, okay, well, what's a 3-year-old Corolla going for that has 40 to 50,000 miles? Wow, they're going for $13,000 to $14,000. That's what the dealers are selling them for. So you get a guaranteed purchase price, which is what? The residual, for only $10,695. So not only is Toyota giving you the car, very good deal, but they're saying you get a great deal, Mr. Customer, which is going to be about $3,000 cheaper than what we're selling them for because we want top dollar, and you know where the car's been. And now you can make payments if you decide to keep it. You can make payments on that. So if
So
you
they'll
want
do the financing on it?
do the financing, go right to the dealership after the lease or any credit union, whatever you want. Make payments of the 1.99. It's like you're buying your own used car that you know where it's been, and you're buying it for $3,000 to $4,000 cheaper than what they're going for at the dealerships. So there's 4 things you can do at the end of the lease. Let me see if I'm missing anything real quick before I do that. Okay, perfect. So we're going to do money factor, and then we'll do the 4 things. Remind myself. All right, money factor. So the money factor on this, when they come out to you and you say, what's my lease and what's my rate? And they say, oh, it's not a rate, it's a money factor. We have 0.00182. This is for someone that has credit. And now if you're leasing, you have to have good credit. Don't even think about leasing or going new and all that unless you have the good credit. This is okay credit, okay? Now this is the money factor. Which is the APR, which is the rate. How do you get the rate and the APR from this crazy money factor? And this is what takes people like me who sell these cars a while to learn. 2 years of selling cars every day to finally know leasing in and out. So you can imagine you got to find the right people or know what you're doing to lease. Anyone can come out with great numbers because that looks like a great number. My rate's 001. Okay. How do you find it? You times it by 2,400. There's some insider information for you. So you times the money factor by 2,400. Okay, so what does this equal? It equals around 4.4% APR. Remember, 1.9 is the good one. And if they offer this rate to you, but there's a 0%, you don't want to lease it. You want to go with the 0%. Yes.
So you times every money factor by 2,400?
So if you go lease a Mercedes, you go lease a Toyota, when they come out and they have all these numbers on the page and you say, well, what's my rate? And they say 0.00, you know, they come out with this number, you get out your phone, you go times 2,400, it's going to give you the rate. Okay, it might not be 100% accurate, but it's 99.9, it's right there, okay, to give you an idea. So here's one, and then here's the other one. Now this is the correct rate on a new Corolla if you have good credit. 0.00001. That's a real money factor on the Corolla if you have good credit. That's like a 0%. If you times that by 2,400, you're looking at 0.024%, which translates to almost 0%. So that is the key to taking a money factor and getting a rate out of it through a lease. And then, any questions on this? Okay, so after the lease, it's not a purchase and a lease. This is why it's different. After the lease, you have 4 options. When you purchase it, it's yours. Okay? If you don't make the payments, they come take it back because it's not really yours until you make the final payment. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over the 4 things, what you can do after the lease. Because now that you've had your happy Corolla, you've been driving it for 3 years, you've been making your payments on time, guess what? Your credit's good. You have the free maintenance for 2 years. It's under warranty, front to back for 3 years, 36,000 miles. Isn't that weird? 3 years, 36,000 miles, it's under warranty, but that's the typical lease. They want you to be worry-free and driving the car. And then they want you to buy it for a great deal after, but if not, here's your 4 options, okay? Option number 1, you can give it back. You don't want a car anymore. Uber's better. You live right at your place of work. You don't need a car anymore. So you give it back. Now, if you're under the 36,000 miles, you walk away. So assuming the car's in good condition. Little dings here and there, they don't really care. If there's something that insurance will cover, like a seat's gone or a bumper's hanging off, insurance covers that. You have to have full coverage insurance. Here's another thing. Full coverage insurance on any time you make payments on a car. So whether you're leasing it or buying or anything, if you make payments on the car, you have to have full coverage insurance. If you buy a cheap car on Craigslist, you might not want full coverage insurance because why spend that extra money on the insurance when you can just go buy another one if something really bad happens to it. So option number 1, you can give it back. If you go over your miles, what do? They charge you 15 cents a mile. So if you're 1,000 miles over the 36,000 miles, that's $150. So here's the car, here's the keys, here's $150, I'm over my miles. You walk away. That's giving it back. Number 2 is you can buy it. Buy it for the residual, which is the guaranteed purchase price. You can make payments on it, you can write a check for it, but then you will be paying the tax and the interest, or at least the tax for sure, on that $10,600 something. So that's number 2, you can buy it. Number 3, you can sell it. You owe $10,600 something, $695. This is what you owe Toyota after the lease. But you realize they're selling on the Toyota website for $13,000 to $14,000. And your neighbor says, I've been wanting a used car. So you say, well, look, Mr. Neighbor, mine's right here. I'm going to give it back. Or if you want, you can buy it for $13,000, or I'll give you a good deal, $12,000. So they say, okay, I'll buy it for $12,000. Well, you only owe Toyota $10,695. Or maybe a friend wants to buy it for $11,000. That's a good friend. But you sell it for $12,000. They save money. You make a little bit of money, and then you sell it. Toyota gets their money.
But you have to buy it first and pay the tax on it.
Whoever buys it, or vice versa, would have to pay the tax on it. Yes.
No, I mean, before you could sell it to your neighbor.
You could get them qualified, bring them in and do it at the dealership, or you're right, you'd have to buy it out, but you're not paying tax on that yet. Basically, you're buying this, and then they send you the title. When you get the title, then you go to DMV and you pay tax and license on the title. So when you get the title, you just give it to them, say, you go pay tax and license, give me $12,000.
So you could actually bring a third party into the dealer and have them buy it out.
You could do that.
But then they see the profit that you're making.
Pretty much, yeah. So what you would do is if you, not a lot of people sell it, trust me. They give it back or they buy it. That's the main ones that they're going to do. But there's an option for you to go out and make some money if you just want to pay it off, get that title, and then go sell it, okay? Number 4, trade it in. So let's say you don't want a Toyota, you want a Lexus now. And you go to Lexus and you say, well, look, I still have a couple more months on my lease, or let's say it's almost done. They say, okay, well, look, the car is Toyota. They want their $10,695. They might be able to sell it on their lot at Lexus for this. So they say, you know what? We don't care if you're a little over or under your miles. What we're going to do, and if you're really under your miles, you don't want to just give it back. If you only drove 5,000 miles, that car's probably going to be worth way up here. It might be worth $15,000. The dealer might give you $12,000 on a trade-in. So what's better, your trade-in or giving it back, right? Double check. Even if you're about to give it back, say, oh, hold on, what would you give me on a trade-in? Or what would another dealer give me on a trade-in? Why not? If they give you more for the trade-in, it's better. So trading it in is not giving it back to the dealership and walking away. That's trading it in and getting the value for it. They're paying off your balance right here, and then you can get another vehicle. So those are like the 4 options after leasing that you can do. And what makes leasing attractive? low payments, low entry, and if you do give it back, or do one of these, you save money on the taxes and the rate and all that stuff. So that's what, and leases are very easy to write off for companies. Oh, this is how many miles you're driving. They're already determined. This is how much it's depreciating, right, every month. That's why companies lease. They get all these great things, and it's an easy write-off. The miles are predetermined, the lease, the depreciation's already determined for you. So, questions on leasing? Yes?
If you did want to buy the car and you were someone that only drove like the 5,000 or like far under your mileage, could you negotiate the residual, or is that normally like a set?
The residual is set. So when you buy the car from day one, you drive it off the lot, this is what
You've agreed to.
you've agreed to, based on the miles that you've agreed to drive, or not over. So even if you have 2,000 miles on it, you barely drove it, you know, you just wanted to lease it just to have it, and then after the lease, well, what's a car with a couple thousand miles that's 3 years old? That might be worth 15 grand. If you get to buy it for this, that's a really good deal. Nothing changes. You buy it for that, you make payments on it, you write a check for it, whatever you want, and you're done.
And then similarly, if you're far over,
Yes, yeah, that's another good question. Yes, so this is what I tell my clients. Okay, how long do you keep the vehicle for? Oh, I want to keep the vehicle for 10 years, but I can't afford a new one. I want to buy a used one and then go buy another used one or something like that in 3 to 4 years. I say, Mr. Customer, why don't you just lease it with only $500 and $225 a month? You can afford that, right? Yes. But then what about after the lease? Oh, Mr. Customer, you get a guaranteed purchase price no matter how many miles you have on the car. So I drive 20,000 miles a year. I drive so much I can't lease it. Well, but you're going to keep the car for how many years? So what's better? You drive 20,000 miles a year, right? You want to pay this per mile, or do you want to pay this per mile? Right? So even if you lease it and you drive a lot, it may be better to lease it anyway, because you already know what you're depreciating per mile. So,
What are some of the, maybe it's a good idea to talk a little bit about insurance and also just about brands of cars. I wanted to just get back when you said about having full coverage. It's important that you understand that there are 3 levels of insurance for your automobile. There's liability, there's collision, there's comprehensive. Full coverage would be comprehensive insurance, okay? And that's where like you walked out of your apartment and a tree fell on your car and it's like, it's ruined. You could call the insurance and they would start the process of the claim. You have only collision or only liability, they're gonna say, ooh, sorry, not covered for that.
yes.
So I just wanted to throw that out there so that you understand a little bit about auto insurance. And then just insofar as talking about what terrific deals Toyota typically gives, what are some of the brands of cars that you would not think are very good financially or just don't give you the greatest deal, kind of not your favorites?
So your question is, if I had to pick a make, what would be my least favorite? Would that be?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a very hard question. Some makes like Range Rover or BMW, they depreciate so much it's unreal. Their maintenance costs are very, very high. So that's why I don't like them, but they're beautiful vehicles. There's also companies like Kia that are very, very cheap cars. They offer great warranties, but they're super cheap cars. So I would not dislike the luxury ones because they're luxury, they're nice. I drive them, but they depreciate a lot. The Kia is probably, those type vehicles are probably my least favorite. An example of why. Customer, and this is actually my aunt, before I was an auto broker selling Toyotas, she's in a different state and she goes, oh, I want to go buy a Kia, they're great, they're cheap, oh, they're so cheap, and I get a great warranty. I want to go buy one. So she buys one brand new. She's driving it. After a couple of days of driving it, she's getting sick. I mean, literally, she's getting dizzy and has to pull over on the side of the road. What's causing that? Well, it was the defect in the windshield. The windshield wasn't perfect. So I guess when your vision, if it's not perfect, can get you motion sickness and get you sick. Small little defect, right? Then you have to go back to the dealer under warranty, get one of their cars because they don't have the windshield in stock because it's the Kia, not Toyota. Toyota, they have everything in stock. So now you have to wait and get the loaner car and drive that. But it's under warranty. They'll give you like a 5-10 year warranty, whatever. But you're always bringing it back. And that's kind of what they say, like, we'll build them super cheap, but you're buying a cheap car, so guess what happens when you buy something cheap? Things start breaking. And if it's covered under warranty, great, but now you have to spend the time and energy and money, time is money, to go bring it to the dealership. They don't have the part in stock, you have to wait for them to get it. So now you're driving somebody else's car, and you gotta go back to the dealership and get it, and then try that once or twice a year on all these little things that go wrong. And they all go wrong on those cars within the first couple years, usually because they're cheaper cars. So if I had to pick my least favorite one, I would say it's probably one of those cheap models because they take away from the quality of Toyotas and Hondas and stuff like that. They're right underpriced, but then you're spending more down the road. They depreciate more, but you're spending more on
Time.
maintenance and time and things like that, you know. And so for me, I would say give it a little bit extra and go 0% and get something like a Toyota. But that would probably be my least favorite brand.
The other thing about this maintenance, the free maintenance, the 2-year prepaid, or not, it's not prepaid maintenance, it's
Well,
it's a
Toyota,
2-year.
yeah, Toyota will give you, if you buy any new vehicle, 2 years or 25,000 miles of free maintenance. So every 5,000 miles, you bring it back to any Toyota dealership. They do the tires, the oil, everything up to 25,000 miles for free at any
They'll
Toyota dealership.
rotate the tires, but they won't replace them, I don't
No,
think.
that's that would be a wear and tear. That's not
Yeah.
a no.
And they will not either if you don't like I have a Toyota Avalon hybrid and they're like, oh, that's terrific, you won't have to worry about brakes because, you know, your brakes are also something that is wear and tear and that's not covered under the free maintenance part,
Yeah,
so.
basically just 2 oil changes, tire rotation. They check
Maybe
the
some
car.
belts, maybe the belt
Well, they
check.
top off all the fluids. So
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
know, if fluids are low, they check it all out. So nothing major, but if you don't pay for it and you bring it to the dealership, they cost a lot of money just to look at that stuff and do those oil changes and tire rotations and little basic things anyways. So I did want to cover real quick gap insurance and insurance. So if you go with any vehicle you're making payments on, you have to have full coverage insurance. So when you see a high payment, 600 something, instantly in your head, add another $100 to it. You need the full coverage insurance, okay? Now, gap insurance. Gap insurance, if you buy a vehicle that has a high rate, that is a used vehicle, that you're not getting the craziest deal because you just really want that vehicle, get gap insurance. What this does is it covers the gap of what the car is really worth to what you owe on the car. So I want to give you an example of it. One of my buddies went out, and this is a true story, bought a $100,000 Viper, used. Me in the car business say that's the stupidest investment you could probably ever do, because right when you drive that $100,000 Viper off the lot, it's worth $80 as a trade-in, easy, maybe less. So you instantly lose $20,000, and you have to add the 10% for tax and license. Now he's instantly losing $30,000 the next day, and he hasn't even made one payment yet. But my friend had good credit, and he had good income. So the banks gave him the car for very, very low down, maybe nothing. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, wait till he tries to get rid of that thing. And he loses $40,000 of driving it for a couple months or 6 months. This is going to be a big depreciation. Well, he crashes it within 3 weeks. Okay? And if he didn't have the gap insurance, the insurance company would have said, well, it's worth $80,000. We're not going to give you top dollar plus tax and license for that. $80,000. He now owes 110 plus some interest. That's a big gap, right? Gap insurance covers the gap. He was smart enough to get gap insurance. So they wrote him a check for the dealer. He actually made money. He made a little bit of money, a few $100, to drive the Dodge Viper, a beautiful car, for 3 weeks. So how important is gap insurance then? Very important. Is it important if you buy a car like a Corolla at 0%, back of invoice, and you have all these great things? No, because by the time the insurance needs to write something, they go MSRP is over 20 and you got it for 18. Well, we'll write a check for 20. Sometimes people make money and they don't even need gap insurance. But if you look and you say, oh, this car, it's a beautiful one, it's a used one, but I'm underwater after I took it off the lot, get gap insurance. It also covers if you can't make your payments and the car happens to catch on fire and it's gone or someone steals it, you walk away. So
Question in the back? Do you have a question? Oh, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Sorry, this is kind of moving on, but I was wondering what are some good resources for researching different car makes and models?
call me. Everything else is YouTube, YouTube, Google. They're all going to have their own opinion, but it's probably what's going to fit your needs better. So I would just say, is call me. But everything else is Google nowadays. Any other questions?
Like with the price you pay, which car do you consider is a more efficient or like return on investment for the
Good
price
question.
you pay?
Good question. Hands down, Toyota Prius. I drive one. I also drive a Bentley. I drive a Prius and a freaking the worst car you could ever buy. So, true. But I wanted the next car. Did I go buy it from a dealer and pay 10%? No, I bought a private party, wheeled and dealed it, and paid almost no taxes. But for the Prius is the #1 vehicle in the world, best hybrid in the world, best gas miles, best value for your money. That I believe. I could be wrong, but if, that's what I would do. Not a lot of people like the way they look. They want maybe a sedan. They might want an SUV. So it might not work for everybody, but if they said, okay, well, what should I do? 0% new Camry, new Prius. I'll get you a crazy deal. That'll be the least depreciation and the least amount of APR and the biggest return on your investment, even though these aren't investments, they're depreciating vehicles, assets. That would be what I would recommend. Any other questions?
Well, you've got Jeff's contact information, and we'll put the board back up so you can see it easily. You all got a card, yes? Okay, so this was terrific. This was so much better than watching the YouTubes that I have on Camino are not bad. They're good, but this was terrific. And Jeff, thank you so much. Really good. So guys, exercise 2 is due. The folder is down here. If you want to ask Jeff questions privately, maybe he can hang around just for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I'll hang around, and you guys feel free to call or text me. I mean, that's my direct number. I'm one of the owners. If anything you guys need, just let me know.
Thank you so much. On Friday then, we're going to be looking at the housing situation, all right? So the next big purchase that you might be looking at is going to be that house. And we want to think about that holistically, not just California, Bay Area, but possibly anywhere. And what's the kind of the purchase versus renting situation with that, okay? All right, see you Friday then. Exercise 2 down here, please. Well, this was really good, really good. I like how
I don't have any
helped
extra.
simplify.
Oh, yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
reaching out.
Yeah, so I will find out from Media Services how to get, I'm going to teach this class again in the fall, if you're up for a repeat performance. Okay, I'll let you know dates. Probably fall quarter, we're looking at, yeah, oh, absolutely, it's always easier to set up around. But, you'll probably get a few calls. And then you also, that's terrific, that's all right. Love that, thank you so much. I want to actually take this, bring my phone, I want to take a screenshot of some of this crap. Wrote down, I know that I've got your, your notes, but,
Probably gonna go get some food.
to have this.
Well, everything I have.
This morning, and she wasn't.
Oh, that, oh, yeah.
I looked at Iris for sure.
It's just really embarrassing, I'm so sorry, give me your deal.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hey, no problem. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you, that
Thanks
was
for having
really
me.
wanted to get a
No
question.
problem, thanks, Chris. Hey, no problem. You guys got my number if you need anything.
Yeah.
Earlier on,
Oh,
This is it here, over there in the folder.
We didn't, I didn't check on the information last week.
Yeah, I think so. I probably.